Hello there, everyone. My name is Crazy Caleb, and today we're going to be taking a look at finally not color flash. So this is the last Speaking Evil module as of now that is a not module and doesn't have a tutorial. And I figured today let's take a look at it. So let me just make sure that I am indeed recording. I am indeed perfect. So now I have a bit of a weird setup with this, and you might be wondering where the heck's the manual? Well, I have it in Chrome here. And the reason why I'm going to be using Chrome today is because the manual in Chrome allows me to do this, because we're taking a look at something like this. Now, don't fret, don't be scared about this little chart. I will guide you through this, and I will explain how all of this works. This is not as bad as it looks, but it is a little bit tedious work, and it is not that easy to do. So, let's take a look at what we're looking at. So this is not color flash. So the way that we determine not color flash from the rest of these guys is because of the fact that it's not cycling at all. So as we can see here, we have this we have the color white and the word blue. It's not cycling at all, and if we press yes, we can cycle the words of each of them. And if we press no, we can cycle the colors of each of them. Each color will only appear once, and each word will only appear once of each individual color for example, we have the words. So let's break this down. So let's write colors. So we're going to get the words being blue, white, green. So blue, white, green, red, yellow, and magenta. We will have between those 6 colors in each individual form. And for colors, we have white, magenta, blue, green, that'll be green, yellow, red. Green, yellow, and red. And just like that, that's what we need. So we want to keep it on the original form too, word blue, color white, just for the sake of helping us remember exactly where we are. So the only information that we need in this is going to be the serial number here. We're going to have Hotel Zulu 5, Juliet Uniform 8. And now what we're going to do is we're going to not look at this thing anymore. We're going to take a look at the manual itself. So what we're going to essentially be doing is we're going to essentially be modifying each of these individual lists that we have here. And we want to make sure that we get this in the correct order, because this is all going to be based off of the correct order. So tapping this yes cycles through the word through a sequence of 6, which we just saw, and tapping no cycles through the color through a different sequence of 6, and holding yes will submit it, and holding no will reset the display. So if we want to, for example, if we want to mess around with it and whatnot, if we hold no, it'll set us back to the beginning. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the following pairs to create a series of transformed sequences, which is going to essentially be us taking each individual sequence and modifying it in some way, shape, or form. So let's take both these sequences. Let's copy this down here. So let's do word and color again. But now we're going to remember that these are going to be the transform sequences. So we'll write transformed. So we'll write that below. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this flowchart here over on the right side in the second page of this manual. And we're essentially going to do, for those of you who are familiar with the module light cycle, that's essentially what we're going to be doing. So to create this transform sequences, what we need to do is we need to figure out a series of pairs of which we're going to use for each individual sequence. So for the first pair, for the words, we're going to use first and second, then the third and fourth, then fifth and sixth. And what this reference is the serial number positions. So first and second, third and fourth, fifth and sixth. And then for colors, we're going to use first and fourth, so 1 and 4, then second and 5, then 3, and then 6. That's the way that this works. So let's actually start doing that so we can get a series of transformations. So let's do the words first. So the words is going to be, let's space this out a little bit too. So we have Hotel Zulu. So first, of course, the first pair is going to be the row, and the second is going to be the column. And a letter on the table refers to the color, while a number refers to the position in the sequence. I would advise you 2 things. Number 1, I would advise you to know how light cycle works, and I would advise you to know how shapeshift works. So I'm going to leave both those links to those tutorials in the description below. I would advise you to know how both of those work before actually doing this module, so you have a better idea of what exactly is going on with this. But essentially what we're going to do is we're going to do 3 swaps for each of them, or it could be potentially 2 or 1, because there could be just a swap that you don't need to actually do. So we're going to do Hotel Zulu, so row, hotel, let's find the letter here, row, hotel, and then column Zulu right here. And we're going to be swapping 3 and Bravo, so 3 and blue essentially. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take the blue here. It's in the first position, so it's not in the third. So we're going to take blue to the third, and then we're going to swap whatever was in the third position with the blue. So that was green. Next up for the third and fourth character is going to be 5 and Juliet. So 5 is going to be our row, and Juliet is going to be our column, which is going to be right here. Now we're going to swap 4 and Yankee. So the red is in the 4th position. That's going to become Yankee. And then we're yellow. And then the 5, where the yellow was, is going to become the red. And then finally, for the last position, we need to do uniform 8. Uniform 8 is going to be U and U right here. And we're going to be swapping 1, the first position, in red. So we're going to do green and then red. And just like that, we now have our transformed word sequences because we have done all 3 of those pairs that we needed to for the words. So now we're going to use the colors. We're going to use the same table, same concept, just we're going to do a couple different pairs. So now we're going to do first and fourth being Hotel and Juliet. So Hotel and Juliet is going to be 5 and 6. So swapping 5 and 6, so it's going to be a yellow and the red, so those 2 swap. Next up, we're going to do the second and fifth, Zulu and uniform. Zulu and, where's the Zulu? Zulu and uniform right here. And that's going to be magenta in the first position. So we have magenta, needs to be right there. That was a white, so we're going to swap it with the second position. And finally, 5 and 8. So 5 and 8. So 5 is our row, 8 is our column, and that's going to be 4 with green swapping here. 4 is the green is already in the 4th position, so nothing happens. That's perfect. That's what I mean by it could potentially be 3 swaps, 2 swaps, or 1 swap, because of the fact that there could be positions that have already been taken up. So now we have both of our transform sequences. What do we do with this information? So what we're going to do is we're going to use the flowchart to determine the correct display to submit. So each cell of the flowchart has a distinct pair of colors below. Some of them can be different colors, like for example this magenta and blue. Some of them can be the exact same color, however, red and red. Essentially what you want to do is you want to essentially note that there's a top half and a bottom half that are each different colors, as you can see here. So what we're going to do is we're going to find our starting position, and the starting cell is determined by the initial display. So our initial display was, for example, on the module, if I have the actual thing here, was the word blue and the color white. So we need to figure out if we're actually going to be looking at the top half being white, or the bottom half being white, and the top half being blue, or the bottom half being blue. So we need to figure that out. So the starting cell is determined by the initial display and one of these conditions here. So if the number of port plates and ports and port plates are both even or both odd, their parities being the exact same, the top matches the color and the bottom matches the word. So let's take a look at our edge word. That's one other thing we need. So we have 3 port plates and we have 3 ports. 3 and 3 are both odd, so that means that this is going to be the case that we look at. So the starting cell is going to be the top matches the color and the bottom matches the word. And if that rule didn't apply, it would be vice versa. So top matches the color, that's going to be white, and bottom matches the color, which is going to be blue. Or bottom matches the word. So we're going to find white, blue right here in the bottom right, and that is going to be our starting position. Now, white, blue, and I should keep in mind that this is going to count as one of the cells that we visit, for example. This is always going to count as the cell that we visit. It doesn't specifically state it in the manual, but it is important to note down that this is what we're going to be visiting. So now what we're going to do is we're going to follow the flowchart. And each cell has a statement, as we can see in this one. Any color is moved to the opposite position by the transformation of the word sequence. And then what we have to do is we have to determine if that statement is true. We're going to follow the black arrow to the next cell, otherwise follow the gray arrow. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to stop on the 12th cell to be visited, or the first cell to be visited twice. This is sort of where that shapeshift comes into play. There is the first cell to be visited twice. That's normally how shapeshift works. However, since this module is much, much bigger, as we can see here, we're only going to pay attention if we happen to do 12 cells. So keep in mind that this is going to apply for the first one that we visit. And what I tend to do is I actually tend to write down the pairs of which we actually visit from beforehand, just to keep track of what we've done so far. That's kind of just the way that I like to do it. And it just helps me. It helps me visualize and see exactly where we're at, and also just to make sure that we don't skip over anything that we need. So let's go through this chart, and we're going to figure out if we either visit a cell twice or we stop at the 12th cell. And remember that a true statement is going to be the black arrow, and otherwise it's going to be the gray arrow if it's false. So let's take a look. So any color, and keep in mind, this stuff you have to read very, very carefully because it's very specific about what it asks for. But keep in mind terminology, word sequence, color sequence, and these are going to be referred to as displayed sequences. And then a transformed word sequence and the transformed color sequence, or simply any display refers to all of them. So that's going to be what's important here. There could also be any transform sequence, any displayed sequence, so just keep in mind that the terminology is important. So, for our first rule here, and sorry if this is hard to see at all, any color is moved to the opposite position by the transformation of the word sequence. So our original sequence had blue, white, green, red, yellow, magenta, and our transform word sequence is right here. So now let's take a look and see if any move to the opposite position. And for example, what this means is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For example, if we were to move to the opposite position, the 5 would move to where the 2 is at, the 4 would move to the 3, the 6 would move to the 1, and vice versa. That's what we're looking for. So let's take a look. So blue is in 3, that's not the opposite. White is in 2, that hasn't changed at all. Green is at 5, that's not the opposite. Red is at the first position, that's not true. Yellow is at the 4th, that does not work, and magenta is in the exact same position. So this rule is false. So we're going to follow the gray arrow, and keep in mind this is a bit tricky to follow. So we're going to do following this arrow over to magenta blue. So now we're going to write down magenta blue, as this is the second tile that we're visiting. So this rule is no color is in the same position in both transform sequences. So no color is in the same position in both transform sequences. Let's see what we have here. Immediately right off the bat, this white is in the same position, and this blue as well is also in the same position for both of the transform sequences. So this rule is not true because it specifically requires no color being true. So we're going to follow the gray arrow. So that's going to be taking us over to the green blue over here. So green blue. Note that down, and now we're going to move this over to the left, and green is in an odd position exactly twice. So green is in an odd position exactly twice. It doesn't specify which sequence we're looking at. It's going to be looking at all of these sequences essentially. So green is in 3rd here, that's 1. Green is in 4th here, that's still 1. Green is in 5th here, that's 2, and green is in 4th here. 3 and 5 are our 2 odd positions. Green is in an odd position exactly twice. This rule is true. So we're going to follow the black arrow. So we're going to go over to the white-red. So white-red. Next up, blue is opposite yellow in either transform sequence. So either transform sequence, let's take a look. Blue is indeed exactly opposite yellow. So for example, we have the 3, 4 here. If we were to say that this is the exact opposite, this would be true. This is not opposite because of the blue and yellow here. I believe this is what it's referred to, so the blue, yellow. So this is going to be true. So we're going to follow the black arrow down to magenta white. Magenta white. Magenta is the second color in any sequence. Magenta being the second color, it is the second color in the displayed color sequence. This rule is true. So we're going to follow the black arrow. That's going to be red, magenta. Blue is not the third color in any sequence. Immediately, the color sequence of the display, that is already false. Blue is the third color in the sequence, so that's going to be false. So we're going to follow the white arrow. Oh, and just like that, here we go. So we're going to follow the gray arrow back to a white red. So we've gone to white red, and as we can see, we've gone to it twice. This is going to be our second cell that we visited twice, and this is essentially what we're going to be submitting into the module. But how exactly do we submit this into the module? Let's take a look. So we visited the cell twice. We visited this one twice. That's the first one to be visited twice. That's perfect. And as we can see, if we can go through each of these individual pairs, none of these guys have been visited twice. That's perfect. It's very rare that this does actually happen, but it can happen. It's actually not that rare. It's more of an uncommon occurrence. It's more often that you're going to get a 12th cell visited case than you're going to get in this case. So now, how exactly do we submit this this final cell? So if the number of batteries is a multiple of 3, this is our other piece of error that we need. So let's take a look. So the number of batteries that we have is currently 0. 0 is indeed a multiple of 3 because 3 times 0 is going to be 0. That's perfect. So now the color matches the top and the word matches the bottom of this cell. So taking a look back here. So the color matches the top. So the color matches the magenta, or excuse me, the color matches the white, red. So the color matches white, so color white. And word is going to be red. And this is essentially what we're going to submit to the module because it's going to be color top, word matches bottom. That makes sense. So let's set this up to this position. So we have color white right here. So color is actually already white, and we're going to submit it word red. So color is white, word is red. So now to submit this module, we simply need to hold yes, and that should submit the current display. And just like that is a solved module. Let's go over one more example. This module is pretty straightforward what it asks you to do, but just keep in mind that the first cell that you start on is going to count as one of the 12 cells that you visit. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't specifically state this, which I kind of find it a little bit annoying, but that's how this module works. So let's pop up one more example and let's see what else we get. Hopefully we can get a 12th cell visited case. But yeah, that's really all this module asks you to do. And also let me make sure that I'm still recording. I am indeed. Perfect. This is not a waste of time. So let's go over one more example. Let's go a little bit faster. I kind of expect you to know how this stuff works and how this stuff makes sense. So let's take a look at one final example. Alrighty, here we go.
There is only one perfect solution, but there are clues that will try.
Alright, so let's get rid of our entire notes here. So we have the word and the color sequence here. So this is going to be displayed. So we have, for our words here, we have magenta. So I'll start with magenta, yellow, white, blue, green, red. Okay, set it back to the original position. Now for colors, we have white, yellow, blue, red, green, and last one should be magenta, yep. And now we're going to set it back to the initial position right there. So now let's get our serial number and let's start transforming things. So we have 245, Mike November 2, and let's get this thing going. So for our first sequence, we have word and color. So let's copy these guys down because we take the exact same sequences and we essentially change them. Let's see. Let's check the alarm out real quick. And let's take a look here. So for the word sequences, we're going to write transformed here. Or you can just simply remember that being transformed. So we have 2, 4. Our first two pairs is going to be 1, 2, then 3, 4, then 5, 6 for the words. So let's do that. So we have 2, 4. Row 2, column 4 is going to be yellow, and white swap, yellow and white. Then 5 and Mike. 5 is the same row. Mike is the exact same thing. Okay, cool. They literally just cancel each other out. So yellow and white swap again, yellow and white. Awesome. And November and 2. November and 2, this is going to be a little bit different, is going to be 3 and blue swap. So 3 and blue, so it's going to be blue, and then the white right there. Now, for the colors, we have 2 and Mike, down here, and Mike. Yellow and whiskey swap again, classic. Yellow and white. Then 4 and November. November is going to be 2 and 4 swap. So positions 2 and 4, so it's going to be red and white swapping. And then finally 5 and 2. 5 and 2. 1 and 2 is going to be red and yellow. And that, just like that, we have our transform sequences. So now, with the original position on the module being magenta and white, let's figure this out. If the number of ports and port plates are both even or both odd, let's take a look. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ports, but we only have 2 port plates. Their parities are not even, so this is not going to be true. So we're going to take a look at the second condition. The top matches the word, and the bottom matches the color. So the top matches the word, so that's going to be magenta, and bottom matches the color, it's going to be white. So our first sequence is going to be magenta white, so let's find this in here. So top magenta, bottom white right here, and this is what we're going to be starting with. So let's take a look. So now, magenta is the second color in any sequence. Immediately right off the bat, no, it's completely yellow. So this is already going to be false. So we're going to be taking a look at we're going to follow the gray, which is going to take us to a red and yellow. Then next up, red is left in place by the transformation of the word sequence. So what we want to do for this one is we want to compare both of our word sequences, and we want to make sure if it's simply staying in the same place. So taking a look at the transform word sequence and the display word sequence, this is true. Red is still in the 6th position, so this does not change at all. So this is going to be true. We're going to follow the black arrow down to white magenta, the exact opposite. This does not count as visiting a duplicate. It has to be the exact same cell. So this is why there's going to be flipped colors. So now next up, blue and white are adjacent in both transform sequences. Blue and white are indeed adjacent in both transform sequences. They are the exact same position, as a matter of fact. So that is going to be true. We're going to follow the black arrow. This is going to take me to a green white. Move you over a little bit. White is the 5th color in any sequence. So taking a look, white is the fifth color in any sequence. No, that is not true. Green is the fifth color in every single sequence. So that is not going to be true. We're going to follow the gray arrow to that. So that's going to be this one over here. That's going to take me to yellow, blue. Maybe back over. So yellow, blue. More than two colors are left in place by the transformation of the color sequence. So more than two colors left in place. The yellow is left in place in the color sequence. The blue is left in place. We need one more. And the green and magenta are both left in place. So this is going to be true because more than two colors are left in the same exact spot. Then we're going to follow the black arrow. So let's do that. Oh, and just like that, we happen to get the exact same cell. So this is going to be us visiting red, yellow again. So red, yellow. So now this is what we're going to submit to the module because we've landed on red, yellow. We followed the black arrow up to the red, yellow again. And just like that, we should be able to submit this to the module. But how do we submit this into the module? So taking a look at our battery count, the battery count is not a multiple of 3. 1 is not a multiple of 3 in any way, shape, or form. So what we're going to do is, instead of doing the color matches the top and word matches the bottom, we're going to do the word matches the top and the color matches the bottom. So our word is going to be the top, which is going to be red. So word is red. And the bottom is going to be the color, which is going to be the yellow. So our word is going to be red. Okay. Our color is going to be yellow. Just like that. We hit the submit button. And just like that is a solved module. So that's it for you guys. I would advise you to use this sort of method of noting this stuff down. It kind of just helps me keep track of everything instead of counting on the actual grid here. And of course, make sure you have a browser that actually uses all 4 manual pages like this because of the fact that there is going to be two different pages, and it can be very easy to lose yourself with these individual arrows. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, that's all I got for you guys. Stay crazy, stay cool, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.